are moving on to the next session, which is the future of oncology. So let me welcome on stage Professor Iyaz Zimlikman, who's the Chief Transformation and Chief Innovation Officer at Sheba Medical Center, and also the founder and director of ARC Innovation, and Professor Ranan Berger, who's the director of the Cancer Center Sheba Medical Center, who's going to join on stage, I think, afterwards. Thanks very much, and please welcome.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Very excited to be here. You might have seen the logo ARC around, maybe on some of the agendas and materials for this day. And I want to tell you what ARC is, because I'm sure many of you are asking that. And how is it going to impact you? Because as you know, ICO has now joined ARC officially. We're going to officially sign tomorrow, but we can, I think, already congratulate, of course. So the next 40 minutes, we'll talk generally about ARC. What is ARC? What is the methodology we're implementing? What's the power of global collaboration? How can we all work together to change the future of healthcare? We're going to do a focus specifically on oncology, of course, and I'm going to invite Professor Ranan Berger, who's the Chief of Oncology at Sheba, to talk a little bit about what ARC Oncology is doing, so you'll hear about that. And then I'll try to wrap it all up together, and of course, we'll come out very energized from the next 40 minutes to go and change the world. That's what we want to do, right? So if we can get the slides. Okay, so I'm not sure. Okay, this is Sheba Medical Center. Sheba is a very, very large hospital, 2,000 beds. It's a city, as you can see here. Very broad in terms of clinical outreach, research, innovation. We are ranked as one of the top 10 hospitals in the world. So on the same list as Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic and Hopkins, Karolinska, and Charité. We're ranked number 9 on the last Newsweek ranking, and also ranked as one of the top 10 smart hospitals in the world, given to the fact we're completely digital for about 25 years with huge amounts of data. That's part of what makes Sheba so special. We're ranked number 6 in the world in impact factor of publications, of research publications. So we do a huge amount of research, and we have a lot of research all the way from basic research to clinical research to a lot of applied research and innovation, which is what we're going to focus on mostly. Okay, I'm not sure this is working. Okay, so this is what we're preoccupied with, everyone. If you're a healthcare professional anywhere in the world, even in the most rich systems, you're facing these problems, as you can see here on the slide. We have huge issues of financial sustainability. Most public healthcare systems lose a lot of money. That cannot go on. It has to change. We have huge issue with lack of workforce, burnout of staff, especially after the pandemic. We have problems with quality and patient safety. Patients are still harmed in hospitals, at healthcare around the world. We haven't been able to solve that problem. We have a huge issue with health equity. We're not able to provide the same level of healthcare to everyone. This is the same around the world. So these problems are existential threats to healthcare, because if we do not solve these problems, healthcare is not going to go in the trajectory we're looking for it to go. Financial sustainability is a huge, huge barrier for the future, and we have to handle this. The only way to handle this is through transformation. We cannot solve these problems with single-point solutions. We have to think differently about the system. And this is what ARC is very much focused on. So in 2019, we officially launched ARC after spending about 3 years working on it. And ARC is a global innovation platform that has 2 goals in mind. One is to lead large-scale transformation efforts around the world. And this is, of course, a big, big challenge. And 2, as we do this and we change the way we're doing healthcare, we also are looking to have innovation serve as an economic engine of growth. And we say economic engine of growth because it's not just about the economy of the health institution itself, but it's also the impact we have on our community, on our society, on our country, creating jobs, bringing in investments, and raising more taxes so that we can reinvest in the population back again. This is what we're trying to do when we talk about economic growth. And healthcare has never been an engine of economic growth. It's been a cost, right? We talk about how much do we spend on healthcare. Nobody talks about how much healthcare makes, how much money are we generating from healthcare. That typically is not in our vocabulary. But this is something we need to change. And these two together govern what ARC is all about. Okay, how do I go back? Okay, so to be able to reach these two goals, ARC is built on 4 fundamental principles. The first one is focusing on digital health. We all realize that if we're going to look into the future 10 years from now or 15 years from now, what's going to tremendously change how we do healthcare is going to be digital health. We've seen it through the pandemic, and I think if in 2019 I had to maybe talk you into agreeing that digital health is the main transformation vehicle, I think we all agree about this today. This is going to fundamentally change healthcare, just like it did for the banking industry, for tourism and travel, for telecommunication. Every industry has gone through digital transformation, apart from healthcare. That's the only industry that has not gone through digital transformation, and we're next in line. So that's going to happen over the next decade, and that's the big opportunity. Number 2 is focusing on both open and organic innovation. Now, organic innovation is the innovation coming from within our own institutions. ICO, which is a great hospital, provides quite a bit of organic innovation. The clinicians themselves are coming up with great ideas that can become startup companies, go into the market and change the world, right? That's the dream of every startup CEO. Change the world, conquer the world, make it big time, right? That's what we're trying to do. So many of these companies are coming from outside of academia, from universities and hospitals. This is a main generator because if hospitals start off companies, it means that they're based on a real need, because hospitals understand the need the best, obviously, as you can understand. But that's not enough. To really see transformation happen, we have to couple it with open innovation. And open innovation is the ability to work with the best innovation that exists from outside of our own walls. Looking for the best startups, like much of what we've done today on the startup pitch, for example, finding the best startups that exist and being able to really capitalize on the ingenuity and innovation that is within our communities. Bringing them in, doing a proof of concept, showing that the technology works, and if it does, perform large-scale implementation. We miss out on all of these opportunities. We don't really know how to do a proof of concept, and when it's working, we don't really know how to scale up. How many times did we see that something works, but failed on the scale up, ended up doing nothing, right? Because we need to have value for our patients. And so open innovation is a whole focus that needs to happen within institutions. Number 3 is international collaborations. We have found that by having international groups work together, there's a much added chance for creating more value. This is very important. When you collaborate within your own country, within your own region, you're much less likely than when you're working with international partners to create this added value, to learn from each other, to impact your own systems. So international is critical, especially in the world today, where geography is no longer a barrier, right? We could do a Zoom call with anybody. We just had companies here present on the startup pitch from another country. The only thing we need to figure out is time difference, right? If you need to work with Australia or the US, you better know what the time difference is, or you might wake someone up. That's the only challenge. Other than that, we can work with anyone across the world. And number 4 here is a structured approach. Everything we have done at ARC is structured. There are processes, specific processes, that can be implemented elsewhere. The reason we've done this is understanding back in 2017 when we started working on this, that if we build the most successful innovation program at Sheba, but it stays at Sheba and it doesn't leave, it can't be incorporated in other organizations, then we're not likely to create the global impact we're looking to create. We're not likely to see the global transformation. For the global transformation to happen, we need other organizations like ICO and others to implement the same methodologies and reach the same outcomes that we have seen at Sheba. So that's why we've put everything in this structured approach. We call it the ARC cookbook, and you'll see in a minute what we've done with the cookbook. I don't know, maybe I'll just ask to move the slides and I'll put this to the side. So next slide. So when we talk about digital health, we're looking at 5 hubs. These are the 5 areas we're most focused on. The biggest effort out of the 5 is, of course, artificial intelligence. I can't believe I spent already almost 10 minutes on stage without saying the word. So here I'm saying it. It's the biggest buzzword today in healthcare, I think in other industries as well. This is our biggest effort by far. Within this, we can do a deep dive into many of the bullets that you see here. But in precision medicine, we do a huge amount of work with digital pathology, for example. I'll show you a little bit of that. We think it's a huge opportunity that's coming our way now. This is now the time for digital pathology. Extended reality, I'll show you an example. Bioengineering and remote care, working a lot with sensors, smart homes, technology, Internet of Things, and so on. A lot of exciting stuff. Next slide, please. Altogether, within ARC, we have more than 100 startup companies. You can see the names here. Everything that you see on the top part of the slide is coming through organic innovation. Again, this has come from IP, intellectual property, created at Sheba Medical Center, and then spinning that off as startup companies. You'll see the numbers in a minute. Some of these companies have become extremely successful, implemented in more than 1,000 hospitals around the world, and some of these companies are unicorn companies worth over $1 billion. Everything you see on the bottom part of the slide is the open innovation. So these are companies who come to ARC for ARC to serve as design partners for those companies. The companies build their technology, they come early stage, they build their technology within ARC, and then they implement across the ARC global ecosystem. We'll see who the ecosystem is in a minute. Then we have an accelerator program for medical device, and we have our venture funds. And if you're looking for investment, we have venture funds at ARC that invest in those companies as well. We work with strategic partners in the industry. You know many of these names here on the right side of the slide. Pharma companies, medical device companies, Microsoft, Intel, very large companies that work with us to develop new solutions and take those solutions to the market. We have quite a bit going on, for example, in generative AI now with Microsoft. It's a big focus. We already launched 2 startup companies with generative AI in the last year. And what you see here is the global community, 31 healthcare systems within 12 countries. The majority is in the US, of course, that's the big market, and there are many of the famous names, from Mayo Clinic to Mount Sinai, Cedars-Sinai, Mass General, Henry Ford, Thomas Jefferson, UC Davis, Cincinnati Children, Houston Methodist. It's a long, long list, of course, but really the leading institutions around the world. In Europe, it's Charité in Berlin, it's Karolinska, it's Zurich Medical Center, and others. And of course, we're also very active in Australia, Singapore, South Africa, South America. So it's very, very global in nature. Next slide. Oh, okay. Thank you. So one of the examples of what we're doing together is sharing data. Of course, that's critical when we talk about big data and AI. We build a platform together with Mayo Clinic as the founding members. And this platform allows all these organizations that you see here on the slide, and the numbers are growing because we're looking for more partners to join, to share data through a federated learning approach so that we can validate and build AI algorithms. Sometimes we want to build an AI algorithm, but we find we don't have enough data within our own institution. It's the perfect opportunity to go to this platform and share data with others so that we can develop the AI solutions. This is a game changer in the world. There's nothing else like this, in also its ability to be extremely private and, of course, adhere to all the regulations. We're looking for the first European partner to join. You'll note there are no Europeans here. And I know now, for those of you who are more versed than I, maybe, we know that there's a lot of regulation changes now around data in Europe, so we're waiting for that to form so that we can actually bring European partners, but they're leading partners in the US, in Asia, in Canada, in Brazil, and other countries. To show you some numbers, before I share the examples, you can see here what we achieved in 4 years since we launched in 2019 to the end of 2023. We're going to redo the numbers at the end of 2024. 200 patents, 100 startup companies that I've mentioned. $4.2 billion is the total valuation in 4 years. Total valuation in 4 years, and the numbers are now growing exponentially. We raised a total of $1.4 billion, And what you see here on the right is really the most amazing numbers, because what you see here are numbers of startups that ARC Sheba was able to generate every year based on IP that we own. And you can see we started with 3 to 4 companies in 2017, and we're now at 20 companies a year, and I don't know when or where it's going to plateau. Are we plateauing at 20? Are we going to grow to 30? We still need to wait and see. But this is through implementation of methodologies that are now going to be implemented at ICO as well. And we are working very closely with a team at ICO, that we're going to see many startups coming out of ICO and other organizations that are implementing this methodology. We have some other partners in the room. We have Philippe here from Ghent, from Belgium, and from the hospital called Maria Midelares, that are now just finished the first stage of implementing these methodologies as well, and we're going to see the same uptake happen in all of these hospitals as well. I want to share with you a couple of examples. I mentioned digital pathology at the beginning, and I think it's something that's worth spending a little bit of time on, because we think it's a huge, huge opportunity. Digital pathology now is where radiology was, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago. Some of you might remember or have seen in television that we used to hold the films up against the light to look at the CT scans and the chest x-rays. It was about 20 years ago. It's not ages ago. We then went electronic, of course. We then went electronic, and pathology is going through the same process. We're done with the days that pathology is seen through a microscope to days where pathology now is digital. And once it becomes digital, it opens up huge amount of possibilities, huge amount of innovation, and we're looking for the best entrepreneurs in the world to be able to pick up these ideas and change how we diagnose cancer, for example. And what you see here is actually working at Sheba Medical Center. We now have about 12 biomarkers that we're able to identify from the image itself. We don't need to send the tissue for sequencing. When we send the tissue for sequencing, it takes 6 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks to get the results, which means the patient needs to wait before we start treatment. We're trying to give the patient, of course, as personalized treatment as possible. We get the results within 2 minutes. Within 2 minutes, we know 12 biomarkers, and the number of biomarkers is increasing very rapidly. So right now at Sheba, for lung cancer, for example, every lung cancer tissue that comes in, we get the full sequencing within 2 minutes, and we start treatment. We're actually doing a clinical trial right now to measure the impact just of that on the outcomes, because we're treating those patients several weeks earlier than otherwise if we had to wait for the sequencing to come in. And this is a revolution that is going to happen in every hospital around the world. Within 5 years, you'll see this everywhere, and we'll be laughing at the times that we had to send the tissue for some labs to do sequencing for the biomarkers. It offers a lot of other possibilities I won't have time to go into, but again, this is a huge, huge potential. Next slide. I got it? Okay. You see here, we announced this 2 weeks ago. ARC and Roche collaborate to enhance non-small cell lung cancer diagnostics using AI. And again, it's based on digital pathology, but not just digital pathology, also overlaying with other omics. We call it multi-omics, and AI, of course, has that capability to look across omics and come up with much more insights on how to best treat the patient. Another example I want to share with you very briefly is our Hospital at Home program. We do this for also oncology patients, where we have shown in a trial that comparing Hospital at Home program that is heavily dependent on digital health, the doctors never make it to the house. They examine the patients from afar. From the hospital, we do virtual rounds when the patient is at home. We utilize the services at the hospital to do this. There's no need for more doctors. It's the same doctors, only the patient, instead of staying at the hospital, are at home. Imagine much less crowded hospitals, of course, if some of them at least are home and the same staff cares for those patients from afar. Look at the outcomes on mortality. If this was a drug, it would be a huge blockbuster, as you can see on the survival curve. Huge reduction in mortality compared to traditional hospitalization. We were quite amazed to see this impact, and it's a glimpse of what the future would look like in terms of hospital care. Hospitals will exist, we'll always need them, but maybe most of our patients will be at home, even some of the more acute ones. This was published on PLOS ONE about 2 months ago. Next slide. Okay, so last example, I'm really giving you a little bit of a flavor, and then Ranan will give you some others. This is specifically for operating rooms, for surgeries. We are now using augmented reality within surgery to be much more precise in navigating and understanding the anatomy and where we need to take the tissue out or insert something. We've done multiple trials. This is one publication. We've done multiple trials that has shown that when you use augmented reality for navigation inside the operating room, you're able to reduce the time of surgery by 30 to 50%. 30 to 50% reduction in time of surgery. We're able to reduce the amount of blood loss, and we're able to reduce complications. Imagine what that can do to a hospital that is struggling to get more operations and more procedures through the operating room. We try to always maximize the resource. If we're able to cut down the time of operation, this is critical to getting more patients in, improve access to patients for sometimes life-threatening conditions, and of course increase the revenues for hospitals who are struggling to get more volume through the hospital. So, okay, so this is Ranan, where I pass it on to you. We'll hear a little bit more about specifically ARC Oncology and what they're doing, and then I'll wrap it up later.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Ranan Berger. I'm the head of the Cancer Center in Sheba. It's smaller than the Sheba Medical Center. It's not that big, but it's one of the largest cancer center in Israel. Actually, it is the largest one. And just who are we? So we are, the cancer is including the Institute of Oncology, the Institute of Hemato-Oncology, plus the bone marrow transplantation ward, the Radiotherapy Institute, and also the Institute of Hemophilia and Thrombosis. And what is really nice in Sheba, and I guess also it's the same thing in the ICO, that there are also the basic research lab. It's like a small university there, a lot of labs, so there is a very direct closure between clinics and research and basic research and translational. In terms of magnitude, we are not as big as the ICO. I asked before, how big are you, or how many patients? So we have around 8,000 new patients a year. We have 3 wards with 100 beds, inpatient wards. The daycare facilities with 500 treatments a day. There is a clinical trial unit. I will give you some perspective about clinical trials and innovation. We have a big operation system or operation infrastructure. We are running around 320 active clinical trials. We have the supportive care unit, and we also have an ER specifically for cancer patients. Just a moment. Opa. Okay, so we launched the data lake or the data lab of oncology around 4 to 5 years ago, and the idea was that this would be the generator for all what ARC is speaking about. So it's we have, the idea is to make a data lab or a data lake which include all the clinical data, and you can see here the different things that are inside the clinical data. It includes all the EMR data, the text, the structural and the unstructural, the diagnosis, the staging, the treatments, toxicities, and also soft data, and I will speak about it a little bit later. And also, of course, and Eyal mentioned the pathology. So in Sheba, we are screening the pathology slides in the last 4 or 5 years. I think we have more than 2 million or 3 million slides that are already scanned. Also, of course, the laboratory, which is easy because it's mostly structural. And also the imaging, and we have some new technologies that are rising up in order to try and to capture the data, the radiology data from the pictures themselves. Genomics data, of course, and also we have some initiatives related to radiation therapy. Now, the idea is, of course, that this oncology lab will be a generator for innovation. It will help us to do better research, better academy, and everything. And here is actually the idea of launching the ARC Oncology infrastructure, which is pretty similar to what Eyal have shown you before. The idea is, again, that the data lab is a generator for everything, for the open innovation, which he mentioned, and I will show some examples that are taking place in our institute. The organic innovation, and the organic innovation, I'm speaking with a lot of people about it. It's not that easy, as you all understand. In a big organization, to start to promote innovation, to make people starting to think differently, to try to identify new pain, the main pains, and try to find solution. It's a different way of thinking, and that's one of the big challenges, I think, for us, especially for the managers that try to promote and to push this direction today. The digital transformation, actually, I will show you an example what we are trying to do in Sheba. But what is really nice here is that if we are capable of transform a lot of things to become digital, then it's much easier to update the data lab and then to do things much more efficiently. And I will give you an example. Eventually, all of this structure, the main aim is to have progressing research and to have progress also in business development. So probably money is not a bad word in medicine, although we are coming to treat patients and we don't need to think about it too much, but it's not bad that we will have more money because then we will treat our patients better. So what are the goals, especially for the data? And this is, I think that I'm a little bit repeating Eyal, but in general, one of the main goals for making this data infrastructure more accurate and more updated, and this is one of the main things. And what we need really is to take all the different data sets that I've shown you, from the structural and the unstructural and the radiology and the digital pathology, and to aggregate it and to fuse it. It's a big challenge. It's not that easy. I'm not sure that there is any place in the world yet that it's really, they have this kind of infrastructure that we can enter, write something, ask something about that related to the clinical data and pathology data, and you will get an accurate answer. So this is a very big challenge for us, and I think for all of us to make. And of course, this will support, as I mentioned, everything, including innovation and research. When we are speaking about digital transformation, so we are launching a program of digital patient journey, and I will give you as an example of the beginning of our journey, of our digital journey for our patients. And this is something that will support, I think, the patient experience, the patient treatment, the healthcare providers' experience, because they will need to work less. And I will give you an example. I mean, not working less, but at least it will be easier to confront the most important part of our profession, which is speaking to the patient and not only documenting everything in front of his face. And it will eventually it will also assist us with strategic decisions in terms of management of the patients and the healthcare providers, and also eventually in treatments. When we are talking about innovation, the open and the organic innovation, So again, this is a very good generator for opportunities and for tightening the academy and the industry ties. And I will speak about it more. Next. So I want to give you some examples of what we are now initiating. For example, we are starting an onboarding project. We are collaborating with a young Israeli startup called Belong Life. Belong Life is a startup that initially they were formed for making communities in an application for cancer patients, and the traffic rised so fast in Israel and then in the United States that eventually after 2 to 3 years they had around 500,000 to 1 million users, and that means that there is a lot of data running there. They have more than 200 or 300 million of discussions, and they have they have hundreds and thousands of documents raised to the cloud, and now they started to develop all kinds of tools long before the Gen AI was first introduced. So they developed their own NLPs, and then when the Gen AI came up, so they started to develop a very efficient bots that they can that discuss with the patient without the need of the physician. They get a lot of very accurate information. So we thought we might use this technology for our sake, for the physicians, because if they know to speak with the patient and they can harbor all the data from the documents, that might help us. And the idea, and that's what we started to develop. And the idea is we call it the Smart Clinic AI. And the idea is to interact and collect and validate the patient information digitally using Belong Gen AI. So a patient is scheduling an appointment in our center the first time. He is getting a link. He is entering the link. He is starting to discuss with the wizard all kinds of questions. What's your name? What are your recent drugs that you are taking? And what are your health problems otherwise? And what kind of family issues you have? And you can here add a lot of other soft data. You can ask him all kinds of questions related to his psychology and his trauma history, etc. And then they're asking him to upload all kinds of documents, including lab data, pathology, radiology. And then we, as a staff, receive a consultation draft with the patient data and information that already is embedded. So it's kind of, it's making our work, our documentation much easier. We don't need to, all the time that we are spending during the meeting with the patient, writing down everything. And it's free up to 60% of our staff, of the staff onboarding time, and up to 30% of the doctor's time. That's what we measure, and this is something that we believe is just the beginning, because now the patient can interact with his data, with the system, and he can ask all kinds of questions, and this is a huge burden that is reduced from us. I wanted to show you this slide just to explain how the way I see it is working. So in the left you see the digital patient journey. And this is all the uploading of the documents and the data and the questionnaires. Eventually, it will go one arm is going to the EMR, and that's what I've talked to you now. And the other thing that it is directly going to the data lab. So this is a way that we can start not to start, but we can continue to collect the data, the clinical data, especially, but also the omics and the pathoradiomics and the soft data, and eventually all of this is will go to the data lake. We are now developing AI tools, again, for aggregating and fusing the data. And eventually, these are the tools that will promote academia and innovation. Another big issue in our field is the clinical trials. So as you can see, it's just going to grow. And like it's going to grow, there will be more and more problems in the clinical trial field, especially in the operational one. I guess, I don't know, but I guess you have also this kind of problems. So I'm not speaking and you don't know what I'm talking about. And you can see here, so it was supposed to be, the slide was supposed to be that I will bring every bubble separately, okay? But just try to see it that way, that the core of the operation is what you see in the middle, the electronic health records that it needs to get to enter the EDC, the electronic data capture of the pharma. And this is surrounded by so many issues, including, you know, you have the source issue and the protocol issue from the, I'm talking from the site side. The blue is the site side. All the samples, all the budget, all the queries. This is huge amount of work. In our center, we have 100 people that are doing only operation for clinical trials. All of them are 100% employees, right? And in the other side is also, it's a huge burden for the pharma, including all the feasibility and the monitoring and the audits and the budget. So this is a big problem that today is the time to start to solve it, at least digitally. And you can see here the chaos of clinical trial ecosystem. Everything is related to everything, and a lot of this is not digital. So every line need to be copy from one document to another through a study coordinator and so on. And so this is a great opportunity for solution. It might be a standalone solution for each of the problems that we mentioned, and it might be also a comprehensive solution. So you can see here 3 examples for solutions that we are using today, and some of them we are also developing. One is the ISF, which is actually the Viva is a solution for all the research record, all the things that we are using that we need to do based on the GCP for the clinical trial, including writing down all the names of the researchers and tons of different documents that is now being operated by the Viva. There is a problem with the budget and handling the budget of the trials, which is also a huge thing. In my center, we have 5 employees that are working only on the budget and the contracts. I need to do all this Excel, so we might have a much better solution for it. The paradigm is we recently also, we had a contract with ARC and Paradigm, which is a young company that's what they're actually creating. They're creating an e-source. So instead, so you know that in clinical trials, all the data all the patient data in the EMR or in the radiology data or pathology data, we need to bring everything and to put it into a source, which is today still papers. And then the study coordinator need to stream it into the EDC. So this is a new and a very promising solution for entering automatically and digitally into the patient data and bring out it electronically. So eventually we might not need even the EDC. It will go directly from the EMR, the digital EMR, directly into the pharma database. And we are now working, and there is some organic innovation from Sheba trying to develop radiology solutions, and we are trying to develop some other solutions that will help us to make all of this process much easier. Okay, these are some of the that I mentioned. Investigator site file, Viva. This is a paradigm. The idea with paradigm eventually that 60% of data points transmitted to sponsor without the CRC attention, which is a huge burden that will be reduced. It doesn't work. Move forward. And the high-level goals, and this is kind of connecting with what Eyal mentioned, is that the high-level goals for the Cancer Center with this innovation platform is for academic excellence, operational efficiency, industry ties, innovation, and generate, of course, gains from all of it. So thank you.
So just to try and wrap everything up, I spoke about these 4 elements, and you see in a couple of examples, especially with the digital health, of course, and Ranan went through a couple of examples, the open and organic, how we all innovate from within, as well as always look outside. If something exists outside, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. But we need to continuously look for solutions. We work internationally, and you've seen the ecosystem, and there's a lot that goes on, not just the data sharing between the centers and the structured platform that allows all of this to scale up very, very fast. Within only a few years, this is now, as I've said, active in 12 countries. To put all of this together, this cookbook together, this is currently the ARC innovation centers around the world that are active on the upper part of the slide. In Ottawa, Canada, in London with Great Ormond Street, which is a children's hospital, in Bahrain with the American Mission Hospital, in Chicago with Northwestern, and you see December 5th in Nantes. That's tomorrow, for those of you who haven't noticed. So it is a significant date. And currently we're under development of all of these sites you see below, and I mentioned already Ghent, which is building up currently London, and we have friends here from London, from UCL Partners, where it's a very big center that's going to be designed to actually work with 5 hospitals and then grow it further from 5 hospitals. We work in Berlin, in Charité, to build an innovation center in Berlin with the biggest hospital in Europe. And we just finished a first stage in Los Angeles with Cedars-Sinai, one of the most, of course, famous hospitals in the world. And we're doing a big project in Melbourne with the state of Victoria. So this is not just a hospital, but actually a state that wants to build an ARC as a central resource for the entire state. All of these centers are working together to achieve the 2 goals that I've mentioned at the start. Transform healthcare and solve the many critical issues. We've touched on many of them here, and you've seen some of this, whether it's clinical trials that for sure needs to change, how we're doing clinical trials. The cost of clinical trials is really unimaginable, and it needs to change. Being able to provide precision medicine, of course, we talk about that a lot. You've seen where digital pathology and multi-omics can play a critical role. So we just touched on a couple of examples. We didn't go through, of course, everything, but you see why it's so important for us to work together if we're going to do this. And, of course, I have to say at the end of the day, congratulations to ICO, because tomorrow, officially, they become part of this very large ecosystem. And this will bring a lot of opportunities here. So whether people in the room, whether you are clinicians and you have ideas and you're looking for those ideas to actually come to life, this is going to be that opportunity. Whether you are startup companies and you're looking for collaborators to work with you, to help you develop your products, to take them to the market, to the US and other markets around the world. This is great news, I think, for the west of France. And tomorrow we'll have 2 ceremonies here and in Angers, where ICO has the 2nd site. And we're very excited to start working with everybody. So again, a lot of work ahead of us. Congratulations to everyone, and we look forward for the work ahead of us. Thank you very much.